My dancing skills, that's right. I'm in the park in Los Angeles, exercising. It's a cloudy day. I notice how I do really bad shows on cloudy days. And I do bad shows, but not so bad shows on clear days. On a clear day, you can see forever. That's right. I used to be in the crooners. I used to be into punk rock and crooning. I got into crooning. I got into all those songs. You know, all this. Everyone goes straight to Sinatra. I liked Mel Torme. I went to go see Mel Torme. It's one of the first things I did when I moved to New York City in 1992. That's right. I got out of the punk rock scene. I was a kid and I didn't know that I was supposed to play the songs that I had written for 2 years straight, put out a record, went on tour. How was I ever going to do that? How was I ever going to know that when I was in the weeds? I was down in the trenches and I was just writing my ass off. And was I supposed to do all that too? Okay. All right. So what we do here is we question the norm. And I talk about drugs because they were part of my life. That's how I grew up in Detroit. Back when they were illegal, right? Because a lot of people worked in the factories, and Friday 5 p.m. you want to go to a rock and roll show. Rock and roll was huge in Detroit. As a matter of fact, one of the radio stations said they were the home of rock and roll. That's right. Should have worked on that part a little bit better. Anyway, I use Tres Flores. Tres Flores pomade. That's what I use. I used to use my mom's spit. She would just spit in her hand. It's in my memoir called Two-Legged Animal. All right? We are not animals. We might be mammals, but we are not animals. Okay? I'm utterly convinced of it, obviously. You know, we don't go to the meerkat city nor any other mammal. We go to the city of man, and man means hand. It does not have a gender. Eve means weave, to come together. Right? To come together, right? Anyway, so they've decriminalized drugs. You know me, I always start my show. I bought a big coffee yesterday, so yesterday I had half of it, and this morning I had the other half. So at least I got a little caffeine going for me. That's about all I got going for me. Okay? You can see I'm in a park. It's gonna get loud, but I'm the furthest away from, you know, the kind folks here where I could do my show. So tell me. I'll just say the 80s, even though I did come up in the 1970s, guys. In 1976, I was 10 years old, and by, what, 1978, I was 12, and I was already smoking weed and doing that. That's 1978, guys. Okay? It's a much different world. That's why I can't relate to these LARPers, man. I came up very different. I don't respond to this passive-aggressive nonsense, and what they're using is tech. So they're cheating, in essence. They're cheating. They're not only antagonizing people on the ground, but they're antagonizing through tech. It's very troublesome and very worrisome. We talk about a lot of things on the show, but what I'm going to talk about now is cocaine. Like I said, I don't do drugs anymore. I was set up in Michigan, and a lot of times what I would do is I would take the bait and I would see where it was going to see if I could write about it. Right now I write fiction, okay? And I find my life's work equally important as anybody else's life's work. I mean, I don't care who you are. From Prince to Edgar Allan Poe. I'm not saying I'm on par with these people, but I'm saying I look at my work with equal value. Nobody else does. That's not my problem. I'm not here to control or care what anybody else thinks, says, feels, or does. But we all have a super ego, and we all want to dress the spiffiest as we can. See, this is about as spiffy as I can dress. We're all concerned with how people perceive us, because we know that we have our side of the story, right? Hey, that's not true. Don't make these assumptions about me. Please. I'm not like that. I know I look tall, dark, and gruesome. Swarthy bastard. But what we're talking about is the price of cocaine. Now, riddle me this. If in the 1980s I could get a gram for $100, guess how much a gram of yay is today? It's $100. How is that even possible? Is this Arizona iced tea we're talking about? Is it Arizona iced tea or is it cocaine? That's how I say it. Because I come up with my own nomenclature here. I come up with, you know, little plays on words, little phrases, right? And we're putting it out into the ether, where it's going to spin along with the Wi-Fi signals. Oh no! And it will penetrate somewheres. Ow. So how can this be that cocaine is still $100 a gram? It seems very strange to me. That seems to me what they're really saying is that you can have all this scuttlebutt about Iran-Contra. You can have all this scuttlebutt about Freeway Ricky Ross, right? You can have all this scuttlebutt about cartels. But for, do the math, 40 years or more, the price of cocaine hasn't changed. Just like Arizona iced tea. It's the Arizona iced tea of drugs. Apparently. Right? You'll get it. It's stepped on. Good morning. Thank you. We got one person joining the show. Yes! What we're talking about right now is the price of cocaine. How come it hasn't changed? But yet there's all this scuttlebutt about cartels. Right? About, you know, I'm good. How are you? All this scuttlebutt about Iran-Contra. But yet the price of coke, the drug, is still been $100 a gram. Seems very strange to me. What I would go ahead and pontificate about is the fact that these rivers flowing in of drugs are there, have been there since, you know, since Dennis Hopper's Easy Rider. And I often will talk about films, you know, things in conjunction with films, because ever since I was a little kid, that was the thing that we did. We went to the cinema, right? And my mother would write me a note, go see whatever movie I wanted. It was only $2 to get in. A pack. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Please share the show. Please like, subscribe, share. Put it on your social media. Say, hey, check this guy out. He talks about crazy things from a park while homeless in Los Angeles. That's right. I came here so I wouldn't freeze to death. And that reminds me of something else. So what I'm saying is these rivers of drugs have been flowing into this country for quite some time. Okay? And what we do is we form an alternative hypothesis as to why. Right? So riddle me this. Now, Candace Owens was called Red Pill Black because she was pilled. Okay? So now this new aeon, I'm going to have to start saying the new aeon because I can't say wake or woke. Ooh, sorry. Scared myself. You can't say that anymore. So this is the new aeon, and so this is the nomenclature that we're going to use here. Okay? Whenever you hear me say the new aeon, okay, it's going to be it's going to clue you into what the Theosophists talked about. They said that this was coming, and so they were calling it to be eyes wide open, right? Right? They were calling it eyes wide open, and we can see that that term has been bastardized, right? So we're going to call it the new aeon from now on. On this show, what we do is we come up with our own language, basically, on this show. We got clicky, clicky, swipey, swipey, scrolly, scrolly, likey, likey. Did you take your social meds today? We've also determined a lot of things. We've determined that it is actually AI that is causing a lot of this behavioral, this crazy behavior when it comes to people getting stoked by things that they're looking at orthogonally, right? And I've already proven that through an neurological stun gun that was being used on me whenever the people felt like it. They were coming through the Facebook app. At one point, they did come through Twitter before Elon, the Tusk, Musk. Yes, he is the walrus, cuckoo gajoob, Elon. Right? Because he's getting ready to fight. MMA. Oh, what does he do? He does Taekwondo, I think. Zuckerberg. We're gonna see what's below the Zuckerberg. Like the iceberg when you just, that's a meme and you, on with the show. So, all right. So let's take a look at Candace Owens. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and TikTok, right? So each one of these companies have their own algorithm. And these algorithms can affect you differently. They can cause depression. And as a matter of fact, if you've got a Fed rat behind them, it can crush you. It can crush you emotionally, right? This is what happened to me in 2018 down in Florida. And it could also make you amorous. And I dare venture to talk about that because I think people who, like, there's two instances where you had the Nexium cult happening. You had women getting tattooed. And then there was somebody else who was having affairs with women and they were getting tattooed. Now, at first glance, you're going to say, well, they're sycophants. They're groupies. This is a huge mistake. It's not, they're not groupies. Sure, like I'm a groupie for a couple of chicks. I like, there's like 3 chicks I got the hots for. Hey ladies, look what you're getting. Oh boy. You can fight over me if you want. All right. But the fact is, this tech will make a person, it could drive a person crazy. And it could also make you amorous. And this whole groupie myth is all bollocks. Because like I said, I like a couple of gals, but I like them for what they do online. I like them for their personality. I really do. I like that they're smart, sexy, funny. The fact that they're smart makes them even sexier. Right? Okay? And I like them. So, and I'm not going to deny it. You can't deny it. And I talked about this a little bit, like what is the first impulse? And it's so easy in tabloid culture. That's why I don't have any respect for people connected to Detroit newspapers. That's for sure. They've done nothing but take the mick out of my band, change the names of my songs in the Metro Times. They've changed the names of the bands that we're playing with. Everything's a big joke, and then come to find out, guys in my band are now friends with these people. And they're all pointing the bead at me. Just like my sisters in my family got the bead on me. Okay, man, fire away. So, they're using tech, guys. This is what they're using. So, you had the Nexium cult, the Sexium cult. People were having sex. It's okay. We're adults. We're allowed to have sex. Right? Some more than others. Oh, boy. Right? But it's something different if you're being crushed neurologically. And my wife was gaslighting me. She was pretending like she didn't know. She had this incredulous look on her face. And I'm finding more and more and more these LARPers, all they have is their incredulity. That's all they have. And a long, long time ago, okay, a sin is basically having more than what you need. I don't think you really need those Gucci shoes. Do you? And I'm not putting down Gucci. I had a girl buy me Gucci clothes before. I would rather have been a father and a husband. I don't need your Gucci clothes, but that's okay. I have my shadow work to do, and I'm a better man because of it. Okay. So let's get back to Candace Owens. All right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, please put this show or any of my shows on your social media and say, hey, watch this guy do a live show from Los Angeles while he's homeless every single day. Every day I do a show. What I'm doing is I'm writing the very last punk rock television show. It's kind of based on the Monkees. Right? That's what was on TV when I was growing up. And when I was suffering these traumas, like being sent home from the hospital, like Chester Himes' brother, maybe, eh? Like Chester Himes' brother, I was sent home. And I was suffering traumas horrendously. It's called shell shock. It used to be called shell shock. They changed it to PTSD. I don't know what they call it now, because it appears to me that every 10 years they change the names of things. It used to be called OCD. You know how many types of OCD they have now? At least 5. Oh, there's the fist. Oh, there's the mitt. They should meet. Yeah. So, yeah. So let's take a look at Candace Owens. So her name was Red Pill Black. If you're pilled, that just means that you can form a hypothesis based on the information that you're getting from Media Deep Blue. And what's Media Deep Blue? It's these media stories that are sent to you through your social media. And it's the AI that's causing a neurological malfunction, I would say. It's tying into you neurologically. Now, yesterday we just proved through this weapon that's being used by the police departments and by the tech agencies. You see where we're going with this here? You see where the essential workers are? Essential workers are in tech agencies, and they're in the police department, and they're bureaucrats. Those are essential workers. So what does that make us? Not essential? And not to mention, they have this tech. The social media sites are using it, and police officers are using it. But what they're not telling you is it excites your nervous system. It doesn't. Now, there's a setting that they can put it to that could put you down like a two-legged animal. Don't forget, I wrote a memoir. It's called Two-Legged Animal. Okay? But it could also make it look like you're behaving erratically. And this is what they want. And then the state can kidnap you, and then they can drug you, they can incarcerate you, and if something happens and you have a stroke and you're brain dead, they can actually execute you. Today. This isn't in the future. Guys, this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is why my show is so vital. Please, we got to get some more subscribers. Please. That's right. There's always a link in your description. Thank you, Tony. He says he likes my books. That's right. I'm a pamphlet person too. My books are basically pamphlets. They're not very long at all. They're very quick reads. They're very condensed. They're very short and to the point. That's how I write. I'm not overtly loquacious. I don't toss word salad like people connected to the news media in Michigan. I never threw my weight around, not once, not ever. I was always a gentleman to people because that's how I am out the gate. So let's take a look at Candace Owens. She was scared to death. She was being harassed nonstop. She was being harassed online, and she was being harassed on the ground. Well, look who she is now. She's part of PragerU, and she has a very comprehensive show. She's making money, and she married into the peerage, just like Meghan Markle. Is that her name? Angela Markle? Meghan Markle? Whatever. She has a huge show. She's part of PragerU. She's a complete pundit, and she married into the peerage. She married into the gentry, just like Meghan Markle. So you tell me if it was really leftists who were antagonizing her. I think what they're using is this self-help book, this self-help phrase by Nietzsche, saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I think that's really what they're doing. They're using this self-help phrase from Nietzsche. That's right. She's on Fox News. That's right. They just built a female, a black female conservative Republican. So you tell me if she was being harassed by people on the left. I'm not saying she wasn't. Maybe she was. But they created that lady, was it Lady Frankenstein? Boy, she was sexy. What was it called? Who was the female Frankenstein? What was she called? Lady Frankenstein? Oh, the Bride of Frankenstein. The Bride, that's right. The Bride, that's right! I talk about the morganic marriage. That's what she got into. Because she married somebody outside of her social class. Please take a look at my playlist for Linoleum Blown Apart. Tony, who's commenting right here, played on some of the songs. Okay? All these songs are going to be used in my property known as Linoleum Blown Apart. And what Linoleum Blown Apart is, it's the very last punk rock television show, just like the Monkees. Okay? The lead character is not based on Kurt Cobain. He's not based on Syd Barrett. He's not based on Jim Morrison. He's not based on the guy from Badfinger. Ooh, look, I got Badfingers up right now. Ooh, I can't do too many. There's people in the park. You got to be respectful of people. That's what I am. But what it's based on is me and what I could have done had I had a little bit of support and not a bunch of people talking to me, telling me what a lumpy Native American is and why I don't matter. And that's what they did in Michigan. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the first thing they did. They knew I had talent. The first thing they did, no, get away from him, man. Get away from him. He's part Southern African. So? Go get a DNA test. You'll look at who else you'll find that's the same way. And what's the difference between Southern Africa and Northern Africa? Where's the dividing line? The equator? You're going to start everything at the equator? What's next? You're going to start eliminating people in eugenics? Come on, guys. We know that racism is completely fake. It's a construct that's unique to the United States. Why? Because in European countries, they're prejudice against people from other countries. Okay? We were built on those people from other countries. We're built on immigrants. That's why you can't equate it with the people in England. The people in England were born in England. Their blood goes back in England. I would never take anything away from those people, but who are they prejudiced against? Immigrants. And how do those immigrants get there? Through government visas, with help from the government, from war-torn countries. The war is put on by the government. Hey, listen, we're going to bomb your country, then we're going to take a bunch of you and we're going to bring you to our country. Good luck assimilating. What is that? They are maroons, okay? And I always put, I was looking for jobs. What's the first thing they ask you on a job? What's your race? First fucking thing. As a matter of fact, that should be illegal, right? But it's not, because they want to stoke the flames of this fake racism. It's fake. Take a look at the band Belphegor. They're on my playlist. Okay, I have raves, faves, and saves. Those are some of the great songs that I listen to. They got a black bass player. I mean, just look at the Specials. Look at any ska band. Look at Amy Winehouse's band. I mean, give me a break. On the right side of your brain, which is tied to the left-hand path, right? The Dionysian left-hand path, right? Because the left side of your brain is tied to the right hand of God, the order, right? And then the left side is the chaos, right? As it were. Sorry, I don't mean to come in so close, but I gotta be comfortable. I look spiffy. I dress the same every day. Shut up! I don't ask you for any money. I'm trying to get work, and I really want to get involved in this project. I'm trying to get other people involved in this project. I think Fred Armisen would be great. Okay? I give people shout-outs who I like, and I give people, I say that the names of people, I dox people who I don't like. And all those people that I don't like have in some way put the beat on me at some point. And, you know, these people are complete and utter failures. Yeah, I miss you guys too, as well, Tony. Okay? And I don't get it. Like I said before, they don't nurture talent, right? I mean, whatever. Where am I going with this? Okay? So what I talk about is this story that I'm writing. So like I said, Lionel from Linoleum, Blownapart, the lead singer, he's based on me. And he has the quintessence of all these people together. So I'm not interested in some fake lawsuit saying, oh my God, this is based on Lane Staley or whomever. Of course you could base it on somebody like that, somebody who died prematurely. Right? That was the same thing that got John Lennon killed when he used some lyrics from Chuck Berry. Yeah, Come On Flat Top from Come Together. That's what got him killed, man. Okay? We can speculate that, right? Because during The Sopranos, they touched on that, right? Didn't they? They had the one guy, I think his name was Saul. I don't want to misspeak. I use the wrong names a lot of times. I was using Chauncey Holt, and I think that's the name of the guy from Being There. There's another guy named Chauncey, and I misspoke, and I do apologize. You can take me to task. Please share this show. Put it on your social media and say, please subscribe to Gordon. Okay? It'd be awesome if we can grow this show. Because I don't believe it was quote-unquote leftists who were harassing Candace Owens. I think it was an organized event, and I think it's being organized against me as well. Okay? Like I said, sorry. Like I said, you know, I've been harassed since day one. I'm not really worried about it. You know, that wasn't our last show, the last show where people are writing white power on the fucking door. I'm like, it's just stupid. Those guys have always been there. We never cared. But again, during the Geraldo Skins episode and all this stuff, here it goes. Now it's in the zeitgeist and it's growing. So what are we doing? We're putting something else in the zeitgeist. The rise of alternative media came because everybody could sniff right through the BS of these dinosaurs. And these dinosaurs are doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down. Okay? They're not letting up. They're sticking to this false narrative. And take a look at RFK Jr., okay? Take a look at RFK Jr., right? He's saying, yeah, man, this was Alan Dulles' CIA. It is not today's CIA. I doubt that there's anybody still alive who was involved in that. That included people like Lansdale, people that I've been studying since the 1990s. Okay? I always talk about Bill Maher's basement. And I was talking about something I forgot. I didn't finish it. The best one was Bill Maher and smoking doobies in his basement with his black light posters and his lava lamps. He was with David Spade, and they were talking about being ladies' men. Okay, when you hear the term ladies' man, do you really think of David Spade? Oh, man. And see, this is what's at issue right now. Because of this whole vapid notion, and we're considering people like David Spade to be a ladies' man? It's like, what? I mean, how revisionist is that? And so that poses a problem for people using this tech. And what this tech does, it makes people amorous. And they can use it, and they have been using it, and they've been using it to create Karens. I talk about it all the time. I'm the only one talking about this because everybody else involved are incredulous. They might sign a piece of paper, an NDA, saying, I'm not allowed to talk about it. But I guarantee there's people out there who know about this tech. So We're talking about Jeremy Cloud. Oh, look at that. It's perfect 30 minutes. Yay! We're talking about... I'll never do that again. Keep watching. So we're talking about Jeremy Cloud, and the year is about 1950. Okay? Jeremy Cloud shows up in Birkenstocks, dressed like an Indian from Peru. Now, don't forget, an Indian is someone who lives by a river, the Indus Valley, right? And the only alternative to that was a Semite, somebody from the desert. Okay, this was an early declination. This was early nomenclature, that's all. It's not putting anybody down. That's why I consider myself to be Native American. And when I fill out job applications, I still put American Indian. Why? Because it's right on my 23andMe. It's right on my 23andMe. American Indian. And I think with 23andMe, the more places you are from, and you're here in America and you take a 23andMe test, well, that means probably means the longer you've been in this country. Has anybody ever speculated about that? Has anyone ever formed a hypothesis about that? I doubt it, right? I'm the only one. I'm the only one. And by the way, the DNA from people in the Ukraine specifically goes all the way down to India. And they are part of the caste system in India, believe it or not. Okay? So that same blood, they're saying, save the Ukrainians. Right? We need to save everybody. But what they're doing is they're using, I don't know the aircraft, but they're giving it a facelift, just like they did in the Middle East. You bomb the shit out of everything, then the construction companies come in, and then the banks do what? The banks resettle. And then you start, and now what they're getting ready to do is they're starting to introduce a new monetary system. Okay? And this is going to coincide with the death of NATO and the rise of this new monetary system. Because you have the Belt Road, and you have BRIC in the Belt Road. Right? So you have BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and you have that Belt Road Treaty, which is the steps that they used to trade on. And then you have everybody else. You have the EU, you have the United States, and you got Canada. Oh, Canada, where you guys at, man? South America. I mean, I consider Mexico and South America to be part of the United States. I mean, you know, I'm not some shaggy-haired Sean Hannity sycophant yelling about the border. Oh, we gotta seal the border, seal the border. It's interesting to know that they sit here and say that there's too many people on the planet, but then there's a statistic saying that people aren't being replaced. People are not being replaced. Like, you know, it's like if 2 people die, 2 people should be born, and that's not happening. Less than 2 people are being born. So where are we going with this? I mean, it just seems to me if you're going to spend a bunch of money to get a statistic on your behalf, if you're in a corporation or whatever kind of public-private partnership that you're in, why would you spend a bunch of money to get a statistic that doesn't agree with your situation? You wouldn't. You wouldn't. Right? And all they're doing is crunching numbers. And if the numbers don't fit, make them fit, right? So, in talking about my project, that's why I'm not here to be a pundit. I'm not here to get political, because there's 2 political parties. You can be a part of either one, right? And I'm here to get this on-demand series going. And if I said something wrong and I offended you, then I could easily apologize, or we could sit down and have a conversation about it and find out really what's at the root of it. That's interesting. Or who gives a crap? I get offended every day. I get offended every day. Look at that guy's hat over there. I wouldn't wear that thing. I'm offended by it. It's ugly. Ball caps, right? Baseball hats. Baseball hats and cargo shorts, man. That's a uniform. Everybody looks like they're wearing pajamas today. Nobody dresses up anymore. Okay, so we are with Jeremy Cloud, and it's 1950s, and he's doing drugs quite openly, okay? And it's not the 60s yet, it's the 50s. And he's talking about this stuff right on Dick Cavett. Right on these shows like Mike Douglas, you know, all these shows, right? And again, where we can go with this is incredible. We could do 3 seasons of punk rock and then turn it into rap for another 2 seasons to stretch it out. You have all of the merch. You've got every single t-shirt and hoodie from the band, from the films. You've got the individual films that are 90 minutes long. All of these films are going to look like, they're going to have the sepia tone. They're going to have the look of the films that came out in Technicolor. They're going to look like Technicolor. They're going to look like the one that's in black and white, Pork Chops and the Who's Cow, right? They're going to have that look to them. So you'll know by looking at them kind of when they came out, okay? And right now, we are on Walter's 3rd and 4th film, okay? And Jeremy Cloud comes in. And like I said, you're never going to see Walter shooting the films on set. And it's cliche. And what you're going to do is you're going to use the dialogue from these films, and these kids are going to be taking the mick out of these films. They'll be making fun of them, and that's part of the narrative for Linoleum Blownapart, who only over a 10-year span become the biggest band in the world. And then we don't know if the lead singer is going to join the 27 Club. We don't know. We don't know. Right? Look how many times people OD'd and then they pulled out of it. So, right? And we don't even know what happened to Walter at this point. We have no idea. So this is a mystery. And there's going to be murders. There'll be all kinds of fun stuff. That's what everybody wants. They want the fun stuff. The killing, the murder, the destruction. Right? So, yes, we could have some explosions. Got to please everybody. Right? But for the most part, going back to Walter's life, it's 1950. And he's hooked up with Jeremy Cloud. And I don't want to give too much away about Walter's family. Because I have to save some stuff, and I can go on and on and on and on. Right? So he's hanging out with this guy, and they're getting information from the generals, and they create this narrative called the Spangled Banner. And the Spangled Banner is about a feckless president who goes on a trip. He doesn't die, so his ego, he lost his mind. He cracked. Okay, he cracked under pressure. Again, this comes from the monologue that he delivers to his, not his press secretary, but his campaign manager, the first guy he murders. And he explains how he came up and how he had to shake everybody's goddamn hand and how much shit he had to take, right? To get to where he is, and he was president, and now he's gonna go out in a disgrace. Well, he gets a hold of the moonshine, and now this is based on my real life. So at one point, right before I quit drinking, I was with Tony, who was just on here. He was playing drums for me at the time, and we were going up to Izzy's. I wrote a song called Izzy's. It's going in the property. It's not on, I don't think it's on my playlist, but I got tons of songs that are supposed to be on the playlist, and they're not. I can't get any help. You guys know the story behind that. So the guy was pouring me 3 fingers of Jameson, and at this point in my life, I had been drinking since the age of about 12, 13 years old. And I was supposed to quit, and I always kind of quit, but I never quit completely like I have now. And but I don't care about having a beer a month or whatever. But at that point, my mind was just swimming, man. I was swimming. And this was before they started using this tech. And that's around the time that I quit. And so it's similar to that, because when you drink this moonshine, it could have a really hallucinatory effect on you. It's very strong. Very strong. And I think that was the impetus behind Dr. Strangelove, of him drinking that pure grain alcohol. And it did cost him his brain cells. You know, and so anyway, so this president goes on a trip because he stands up in the window to commit suicide, and he's saved miraculously, right? And so this only adds to his psychotic. So then he knows that he is something more than, right? Hey, maybe that's like me. I died in 1999, right? OD'd. I thought I owed the hospital $10,000 because they sent me a bill for $10,000 for ODing. My hospital bill was 10 grand. And for years, I just went to day labor and drank beer because how am I ever going to get 10,000? I didn't think I was ever going to get it. I had no prospects. So I talk about this hobo lifestyle. I talk about all this stuff. Why? Because it's fascinating to me, because I kind of lived it, right? I was one of the last of these kind of like on the road guys, right? And I wrote a book. It's called Two-Legged Animal. We're not animals. Oh, okay. Sun's coming out a little bit. They're like, yeah, I could tell off your nose. Like I say, I see things that you guys might not see. So, right? Here these guys go, and they write this story, and they do it on behalf of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Because what they're trying to say and then trying to instill into the public is that the president has too much power. We have to pull back on this power. And so this begins this type of, well, you know, you have the Senate Foreign Committee, and you have all these committees coming in, and you got all, sets in all these watchdog groups. You understand? You know, putting people in check for their power, when it's really these generals who are coming over, right, to help out with the script. It's these generals, right? And I think that's a song by The Damned. That's what Fred Armisen was talking about, that era of The Damned, where they started off as a punk band in 1977. Well, by 1982, 84, they're actually a really good band, because they don't stop playing. And that's what happened to the Grievance Committee. We got really, really good. And I'm still angry about it, but I keep going. And you can see I'm going to continue to keep going. And we start the show by talking about certain things, you know, that I'm wondering about, like the price of cocaine, how it's never changed, but yet we can vilify all these individual people. And we will be putting drugs into this property, Linoleum Blownapart. You bet your bippy. I'm the giddy. I try not to bet my bippy too often, because I end up losing. So, okay. So they make this movie about the president going on a trip, and when he doesn't die, he gets more emboldened. And so everywhere that he goes, there's a murder, because what happens is he's not really in a disguise, but he takes off his hat and his glasses, right? And he says, what do you think about the president? And the person's looking right at him. But you understand, it's like live witness news on Jimmy Kimmel. When you ask somebody something, or, you know, you got the president standing right in front of you, it's like, oh, you look familiar, but you can't wrap your mind. You would never think that the president of the United States is standing right there in front of you. He would be the last person that you would think. It's like, oh, you look like my cousin or my uncle. Duh, you look familiar. Boy. So you have this coming into the dialogue. Boy, you sure look familiar. Do I? Yeah? What do you think of this last president? And they all shit talk his presidency. They shit talk him and his presidency. And then right? He gets his mitts on him, right? Because he's like a Rod Steiger. Like Rod Steiger, I don't think he was a very good Napoleon. I'm sorry, he just wasn't. He was less a lion and more like a pit bull. And so here this guy comes, the president, and he kills him. But right at the end, you got the da, 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 da. You see it in their eyes, just like in Hitchcock. Da, 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 da. Right? What's the guy who did the music for Hitchcock? He did it for Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver, Paul Schrader's Taxi Driver. I can think of his name in a minute. Anyway, so you have this like orchestral music, da, 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 And right when he's going to kill the person, they're like, it's you. So they realize that it's the president right at the last minute. It's too late. Right? And so he goes on an odyssey, right? That's what happens. He goes on this odyssey, and he's going around, and he's going on the same odyssey as Jeremy Cloud and Walter. Okay? He's going on the... Sorry, I can't see. It's just too much glare. Okay? He's going on the exact same odyssey as these guys. And, you know, so it's a metaphor for that same odyssey, right? Okay? And so that way you don't have to cut to it too much. You can kind of see this is where they're getting the storyline from. Like, every place that they go to jazz clubs, they smoke weed. The President of the United States goes to a jazz club. He goes to the black side of town. You know, he goes to like these pseudo hippies doing yoga, maybe practicing Buddhism. So everything that's in Jeremy Cloud's book is going into this film de facto. And that's the difference with how they're making this film, right? Where before they used Grabowski's book and he's like, I'm going to be true to the book. Because at the end of Pork Chops and the Hoosgow, the boxer who's like in his 20s and he's just really innocent and he has no business and he gets to see how the world is corrupt and then he becomes a murderer at the end. He just walks towards the woman and you know she broke his heart. You know what's going to happen, right? We've all been in that situation where we're really mad as hell at a person that we love. We're not going to be mad as hell at a person that we don't have anything to do with, right? Maybe I'll try to move. I really can't. The camera's set up, so just go ahead and listen to the story. Don't run. Bing. All right. So again, they're making a movie basically out of their own lives, and we can see this. And so again, you don't have to pay too much attention to it. But as far as the merch for Linoleum Blownapart, they're going to be able to buy this film and watch it from beginning to end. Now, I say 90 minutes, but it's as long as the film goes for. And I think in this day and age, in the digital age, we can do this. I think we can make this series, we can make it digitally. Guys, take a look. Oh, that's what it is. I'm seeing a reflection off of the actual surface, like scrying. Not crying, scrying. That's why, I'm sorry. It's distracting. I'm like, and then... Okay, so take a look at all the merch that we could sell. We could sell each one of Walter's 7 films on demand. Oh, did you like Scorpius XL? You can watch the whole thing. It's an actual film. But it's being referenced in the series. You've got all the merch that you can buy. You can buy t-shirts of the bands. Just Linoleum Blown Apart. We're not going to make t-shirts of the other bands. Because there is no other band. You don't want to get into that mess too much. It makes it too complicated. Just one band, very simple songs. Okay, the hooks are great. The hooks are so good that they're actually stolen, and these people were bragging about it and putting it in my face in Michigan. Just terrible behavior, man. Look at the behaviors now. They actually run suicide ops, and they want you to die. I mean, Christ's sakes, dude. Not me. And then you have, actually, we could sell the Jeremy Cloud concoction. It's a protein drink. That's a tea that's made out of mushrooms. And let me tell you something. You can actually mail 0.03% THC through the mail. It's legal because you can send CBD through the mail. My sister is so square in 2018 when I was hurting really bad and people like Josh Barnes at Disconnected Records said that they lived in Denver. I said, can you mail me some of that CBD? And she didn't want to. She didn't want to get in trouble. That's how square my sisters are. And in case you don't know, my childhood, my dad and mom were married. They had 4 kids, 5. One of them passed away. My dad was drinking in the bars, and some homewrecker came and took him out of our house. And when my dad left to be with another woman, like a piece of trash that he was, Guess who started calling our house? Men started calling our house. You know how old my sisters were? 8, 9, and 10 years old. Men were calling our house, harassing my sisters and our family. Yeah? And I know who some of these people are. I know one of them's named Brian. I saw the guy, the child molester. I saw my own child molester before I left town. He came rolling up on me because he knew I was calling him out by name. It's interesting when you call people out like Josh Barnes. Well, they don't show up here. But boy, they sure showed up back in Michigan. Yeah? So that's the kind of childhood. That's horrific. That's horrific stuff. And so when you have these phonies online and they bring up CP, which I'll never bring up, and hurting, kids, listen, if you have a child and you want to change their gender, that's your business. It's not mine. I'm not going to get emotionally involved in that story. I'm not a mother. That's not my kid. That's not up to me. Each family is its own unit. And when you don't have that family unit, you're leaving people in your family open to be preyed upon. Look what happened to my sisters when my dad got taken out of the family. That's why I don't have any respect for phonies like this guy on Pico accosting me. Coming up talking about male rape and all this stuff, man. You're about as dumb as a box of rocks and a bag of hammers that broken. You understand? This stuff is fake. It's contrived. It's stuff that men say to each other to try to put somebody in the feminine position, right? You're alpha-ing someone who you consider to be beta. I'm not beta, I'm delta. I'll be waiting for your fucking ass. And I'll be ready. You better know that's right. So, I talk about my real life. Why not? I'm a memoirist. And I consider myself, I'm not putting my sisters down or my mother, but I had a pretty horrific childhood. I wanted my dad. I didn't want anything else but to be with my dad. Why? Because he reflected how I felt inside. He was a man. He showed me how to pee one time. That's it. He never came back. The only time my dad came around, he was smoking cigarettes and drinking beer. That's all he did. And we drove around for 2 weeks. And he let other people in his family feed us. And then he dropped us off. And as children, it was the best time in our life because we didn't know anything else. And when I went out into the world and I moved to New York and I saw how other people lived, and they were like normal families, it was kind of jarring. And again, what you're looking for is you're looking for your place in society. Where am I going to be accepted? And I'm seeing some of the coolest people here. I saw a guy with the Ramones shirt on. You know what I mean? Just people who listen to the same music as me. People who are into the same type of things as me. I don't go out. I'm on regimen. I go to bed every night at 10 o'clock. Just the way it is. You have to. In order to have this power, in order to, right? You have to come up with a credo. You weirdo. Mine is stare it down and nourish what comes near you. Stare it down and nourish what comes near you. Okay? That would be my credo. And I talk a lot about this. I talk a lot about the emerald tablets and the 10 commandments that were on tablets. And so that's what happened. That's my exegesis of Moses. He went up on the top of the mountain. He figured out what this credo was. He stole it from Egypt. He stole this knowledge, right? And that's what the mystery schools are from over in Egypt. And that's why everybody went there. The people from Greece went there. And then they started developing philosophies, their notions of ontology. They just started developing religions. Okay? They started developing what? Cults. Right? So, those are religious sects, and there's no, well, I guess sometimes there's an X in sex. Right? You take a look at the opening of the Bible. They ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And what did they do? They felt ashamed and they went and put their clothes on. Well, what did God do? God created us, allegedly. And so what did they discover? They discovered that they could create a family just like God and carry on their tradition, or they can just kind of fool around and have a good time. So what? So what? Right? I believe that being a monk and being an ascetic, I believe that is a temporary state. I believe if you are going to do that with your entire life, I believe you're suffering from a psychosis. That's just what I believe. Why don't you smoke a joint and lighten up? Right? Why don't you have a bottle of wine, get drunk, get laid, have some fun, because you're continuing to suppress natural things that, if we're created in the image of God, the big pour, the unmovable mover, right? Then we should be able to experience all this stuff. That means he's experiencing it. He experiences anger. He experiences sexuality. He experiences remorse, right? Because he gave this to us. So when you're being electronically manipulated into feeling these things, it's wrong. Somebody is playing God, and they don't have any right to do that. And why am I the only person talking about this? I'm not a saint by a sight. And I don't really care, because I'm at the end of my life. I don't really care. I might have another 20 years left, if that. If I'm lucky. That's why I want to get this project done. And that's why I'm going to work on it until the day I die. I'm going to make sure it gets done, because it's the best idea to ever come out of it. And you're not going to sit here and tell me that leftists created Candace Owens because they created their enemy. Does that make a lick of sense with all these sociological studies that they do? With all these psychological studies that they do? What are they creating? What did you create in me? I think I stick by everything that I said in every episode. I mean, unless I misspoke, right? Unless I misspoke, right? I challenge the norm because most people don't know anyone beyond your own grandfather. So how are you going to tell me what my familial history is? You can't. The only thing we can do is we can speculate through DNA, through 23andMe. That's the one that I went through. I'm here in conjunction with 23andMe. I'm here in conjunction with Google and YouTube. I want to work together through synarchy, considering that Google is the government, isn't it? If you're a public-private partnership, that's what my wife was involved in, and she was issued a neurological stun gun, unless she got it from her brother, right? I just don't understand it. I thought I was going to die, and they wanted me to die. And when I did the right thing, I kept my head down and I went back to work. What's happened at every single job? This last job in Michigan, the guy sets me up with drugs. 2 jobs here at US Art and this other trucking company over here, they railroad me out. I was riding around with a guy with a, he had a duffel bag that said sheriff on it. I don't know, maybe he was using this weapon on me. I don't know. I think there's a certain segment of our population that they don't know that their weapon can actually create this amorous feeling. I didn't know what was going on down in Florida, and I don't think it's very funny. And I had people calling me from Michigan laughing about it. You're gonna squirm like a maggot in the eye of a corpse. Make no mistake about it. So that's why I want to continue on with my story about Jeremy Cloud and Walter. Okay? And so in this film about the president, it comes out and it's really scary. It scares the shit out of people. And people love it. It makes the same amount of money as all of his films. It does very well. You know, like he's more Spielberg than Spielberg. A Spielberg film comes out, you know, and as a matter of fact, I worked on the very first one. I worked on Peacemaker. I didn't get any credit for it. I worked on Peacemaker, and that was the very first Jeffrey Katzenberg, David Geffen, and Spielberg. It was the very first, what was it called now? DreamWorks? It was the very first one, I believe. That's what they were telling me on the set. So, Pat Kehoe was there. I love Pat Kehoe. He was great. He worked on The Driver. He was a showrunner and line producer. Okay? I mean, these are the kind of jobs that I could get easily. And I'm sorry if I dropped out. I'm sorry if I didn't stick with it being a PA since the 90s. I'm sorry. But I had to go out into the world and find my way. I was actually looking to go to get stories from getting into trouble. I'm like, I need stories. This life is boring. What is going on? I'm boring. And so when I was dating Suzanne, she worked at Bourbon Street, and that is the setting for my story Thug Wife. The link is always in the description. You can go to Kindle and you can see all my stories that are up. Okay? And I can't make any money anymore. I don't have a bank account anymore. I just don't. Oh well. There's nothing I could do about it. I'm just like, there's nothing I could do about it. You can run me out. You can run me out of town. You're not going to stop me. No one's going to stop me. You can ridicule me all you want, but like I said, ridicule is a tactic used by a weaker force. And I could sit down with anybody and have a conversation. Have a conversation about what happened in 2018. These suicide ops came from my device, and they came from Facebook. This is why Elon Musk got rid of 80% of the people working there. Who could say that? And so how Zuckerberg referred to these people, he referred to them as management. That's how he referred to them, not as engineers. He referred to them as management. Where they're managing somebody, they're running suicide ops on people. These are federal agents, from what I can gather. That's what my wife must have been. I don't know why she would bring me all the way back to New York City just so they can spray paint cash for smells everywhere. I don't know why she would still, you know, perform sexual acts with me if she hated my guts. I mean, does that make any sense? I don't get it. I don't understand people at all. But it's just really horrific to know that they can actually use some kind of device to actually artificially stimulate a person into feeling a certain way, into manipulating them. You're getting into dangerous territory. And this stuff needs to stop, or you have to put a curb on it. You can't just let these youngsters out here, like the guy who I talked about, who stoked the flames of George Floyd, be able to use this stuff so they can get a viral video and then make money on it. Is that their little bonus for keeping their mouth shut about it? Oh yeah. It creates criminals. It doesn't curb criminal behavior. Why? Because the criminal behavior is peer pressured to begin with. Hey, come on, we're in a gang now. Come on, you want to be part of the gang? Go ahead and rob that grocery store. That's what they used to do in my neighborhood. They used to talk the young kids into doing something crazy. And the kid was stupid enough to do it. Oh, well, you're just stupid then. You're just dumb. Man, what a terrible thing to do to some poor kid. Right? And again, like I said, I wasn't afraid of going to jail. I saw enough, I had the entire San Quentin album memorized by the time I was 8 years old. My favorite song is Starkville City Jail. Starkville, Mississippi. Right? That's my favorite song on the album. It's just terrific. Johnny Cash live in San Quentin. And, right? I wasn't afraid of that. I was afraid of my mother. What the hell she was going to do to me. And once you can speak the English language, you should be able to convey your message to people and not shock them like an animal. This is wrong, guys. And I'll keep going. I'll keep going my show. I don't really care. We all know that it's wrong. And how come nobody's watching? That's wrong. Please share the show. Please share it. You can fast forward to it. So they finished the film. It's basically about them going on an odyssey. He goes on a killing spree, right? It's just like Hitchcock. Hitchcock used to get off on like murders and death. It was really great to see him on a talk show, and he would like laugh about murders and that was part of his macabre behavior. You know what I mean? He's making these films as part of his macabre makeup. But, you know, in this day and age, you'd get some tabloid wanker, you know, taking him to task. Oh, he got into a car accident. Maybe he was really trying to run somebody down. Ugh. That's what I'm saying. They can create whatever narrative they want. It's pretty sad. But it's up to us what we buy into that's being delivered to us through Media Deep Blue. So then they make a second film together. And in this film, it's called Not a Sticky Candy Dish. And it is a sex romp. And the fact is, this film comes out in 1960. I think 1960. It's a sex romp. A 1960s. Oops, I shouldn't be so loud. Sex romp. You gotta quiet down a little bit. Oh yeah, when the traffic goes quiet, I'm like yelling. Yeah. And it's about a girl of 17. Okay, I don't want to piss anybody off or whatever. It's not Lolita. Okay, it's not Lolita. It's not that improprietous. But she is in boarding school, and she is a sexual person, right? And so they're going to be showing this. But the narrative is going to give away how Jeremy Cloud's family got their riches. And part of that is just like what happened in the Titanic. Billionaires went down in the original Titanic, and now new billionaires just went down. Who's the guy from Snapchat? Is it Snapchat or WhatsApp? He was just murdered. He's a billionaire. And they said he was always going to sex parties. I heard he was going to sex parties and it was a sex partier. That's what I heard. How do we know? And what's wrong with going to a sex party if you're an adult? It only happened that once a few times. So we've got billionaire deaths going on right under our nose. Right now. The people who went down in that sub, ironically, next to the Titanic, are billionaires. And somebody's gonna move in to divvy up their stuff. Their children are not gonna be billionaires. They're not gonna inherit all of that. There's gonna be a hostile takeover of their assets. That's what happens, guys. That's what happens. A hostile takeover of their assets. And what's going to happen in Not a Sticky Candy Dish? The exact same thing. Very bizarre, right? So what I'm trying to tell you, oh, I'm sorry, am I mentally ill now that I created this narrative and it's getting played out in real life? No, it's just a synchronicity. It's a coincidence, right? It's a total coincidence. Oh, yeah. And so that is the narrative, and he's giving away his family's secrets. This is what Jeremy Cloud's doing. This is 2 films he does with Walter. It's going to come out in 1960, so it gives you the timeline. You're going to see this beautiful girl. It's going to be like, pardon me, but your fangs are sticking in my neck with Sharon Tate, right? She's going to be beautiful. She's going to be a very young, voluptuous actress in this. And so she has to, they call her, and they're like, they call her into the office. And it's a boarding school for women. But she's been out playing with the horses, and there's a stable boy. He's the son of the stableman, the guy who's taking care of the horses at the boarding school. And so that's who she's been, right? And she got busted. And so they call her in, they let her know what happened to her family, and then, you know, the school mom calls her in the back. She says, you know, I understand that you're feeling upset. Here, let me close the door. So she closes the door, and when the door opens again, this young girl has her lipstick smeared, and her hair's a muss, and her clothes are on backwards. So you know that she's been having, right? And that's how they show it, and that's how they get away with it. And they don't have any nudity per se. We can figure it out. We can maybe have a scene where she goes swimming. You see her back all the way down to the coin slot, something like that. Don't forget it's 1960s, right? I mean, we could get as raunchy as you want. I don't really care. I'm not married to anything. Least of all, slope-shouldered man, you have a fuddy-duddy. And again, I would never say anything about anybody. I kept Yolanda's life secret. You know, I have the utmost respect for anybody who has respect for me, but you don't use electronic warfare on me. We're not animals. And I'm not interested in revenge or anything like that. I don't care. I want to live my life. I want a girlfriend. I want a job. You know, I deserve these things as a human being. We all do. So she goes back to her estate. That's what she has. She has a massive estate. And this is based on me going to the Ford Mansion in Michigan. I went to the Ford Mansion, and it's an estate. They have a place called Ford's Cove, and all the boats meet up at Ford's Cove on Lake St. Clair, I believe it is. And they all meet up at Ford's Cove and party and drink and do all this stuff, right? So that's what it is. She's got a massive estate, and her little brother and her mother and father are all dead. That's it. They're gone. And like I said, I had them going down in a ship like the Titanic called the Olympian or something like that. But we can always change it. Like I said, we can have them in the Hindenburg. I was just talking about that the other day. It came into my mind. And again, with this Neuralink, this neurological stun gun proves Neuralink is not going to be free jacked into our head. That they're going to be able to get there through electronically. I prove everything on this show. I contacted the DOJ about the Facebook app. That's the first thing they told me. It took them 7 minutes to get back to me and say, nope, not interested. Not interested. Okay, so this is the second film that they create, this narrative. Now, whether Jeremy Cloud whether he consciously is doing this, telling his family secrets, or maybe it's subconsciously, I don't know. We have that to be determined. But after this film, Walter has 3 more films, guys. I got the narratives for all of these films. I'm going to be going over them this week. We're at 70 minutes in, and I could keep going, and I think I will. Why not? Why not? I had a little bit of breakfast. Yesterday, they took mercy on me, and they gave me some snacks, and I didn't have to spend my money. And I had a little bit of coffee today. Oh, guys, I can't function without caffeine. I just can't. And I told you guys already, like, energy drinks, that's too much caffeine. As long as I got a cup of coffee, I'll be all right. So, she gets called home, and she goes into the office, their main office, right? What shirt does she have on? I've been seeing these people in these rock and roll shirts lately. Classic rock shirts. And so she goes into the office and she's like, wow, I never really come in here unless I'm being disciplined. Everything about her is bawdy. It's all, you know, being disciplined, being spanked. She's been spanked numerous times. She's 17. She was just basically taken advantage of sexually by the female school marm. So in her mind, she's saying, "Oh, are you going to comfort me too?" So when they say, "Come here, let me comfort you," she's doing all manner of things to her. So when that's what she calls intercourse. And she'll say to certain people, certain characters, "No, somebody already comforted me. I don't need any more comforting." Meaning she's already had an orgasm. You guys see where we're going with this? It's all double entendre. It's all about sex. It all has a 17-year-old girl, and it is scandalous. The actress is beautiful, obviously. And so she goes back home to her estate, which is vast and massive. And they're trying to figure out, what do we do? And so there's a guy, he just graduated from law school. She's 17, now he's about 25. That's the type of age that a 17-year-old girl will look up to. Like a 25-year-old guy, that's who they want to be with, right? They're like, "Wow, look at him, he's already established, he graduated law school." Well, his father is corrupt. His father was in on this whole thing, right? So, hey guys, hi. So, I gotta say hello to the people. Hello. That's great. The kids stuck their tongue out at me. Why you? Right? So, he doesn't know his father's corrupt. He just graduated from law school. And the father obviously wants the son to be like him. Right? That's why he became a lawyer as well. And the father's in charge of the family estate. But he's the one who he's helping to cover up the murder of her family, who is just her mother, father, and her little brother, who's obnoxious. Her little brother is a psychopath. Her little brother is the kind of kid who like murders animals and like gets off on it. You know these people? Right? Right? That's who her little brother is. And so they went either down in the Hindenburg or they went down in a ship. Now this is to be determined, whatever works out better. And so they're in the office and they're trying to figure out what they can do. Well, a lot of their assets are in Alaska. So there's a character, he's called the Alaskan right now, right? Right now he's called the Alaskan. And they call him up on the phone, and this is based on Eureka. There's a great Nicholas Roeg film, it's called Eureka, with the guy from The Conversation. You know who I'm talking about, Gene Hackman. Okay? Eureka is a great film, Teresa Russell, Rutger Hauer. It deals in witchcraft. Okay, I mean, there's amazing stuff in this film. And so they call up the guy and they're like, "Well, how's our assets up there?" And so they have mines, they have gold, oil, right? They have mineral mines, you know, they're mining gold, they're mining silver, they're, you know, anything that's up in Alaska. And so basically what they're doing in this film is they're trying to save the company. And the board meeting, just like the one, I'm always going back to these boardrooms from Network, right? And Hudsucker Proxy, right? It's all about corporate life. It's just like the Hudsucker Proxy once again, right? And they're trying to save the company and keep it in the family. And so the big twist at the end is basically that she turns 18, and at 18, you're a legal adult. So they have a countdown too. They have to save the company. They have about a week to save the company and keep it before they're trying to steal it. If they steal it before she turns 18, then they can get it for pennies on the dollar. And that's what they want. And the corrupt lawyer is helping the bad guys. I call them the top hats because they all have top hats and monocles, right? But the corrupt lawyer's son is falling in love with this girl. And he's altruistic because he believes his father. He goes, "Oh, we're supposed to help this family. And the father's trying to corrupt the son, like, you know, he's trying to be subtle about it. It's like, no, come along with me. But, like, he gets foiled at everything that he does because his son's really smart, right? And again, we have to understand that these new generations are harder, smarter, better, faster than the last. Why? Because they're born into the technology that we weren't born into. Okay? They're born into the stuff that we weren't born into it. So they're, you know, like for me, I was listening to transistor radios and I was playing records and playing music on 8-track at a very young age. So it came naturally to me. And so by the time CDs came out and I'm working at a record store, I'm like, you know, whatever. I don't know whatever another analogy to make. Okay? And it just makes sense to me. And that's why I never really liked the production value after my music got taken out of the temperament. It's garbage production value. Why? Because everything is shrunken down to a ding, ding, it sounds empty and it sounds hollow. Okay? I'm not sitting here saying like I'm a huge U2 fan, but Brian Eno was their producer. And without Brian Eno's production, I don't think U2 would be as great of a band as they are. It's a combination of all these things. And in my story, Linoleum Blownapart, it's going to be the combination of all those things too. But again, it's a little boring when you just have this one narrative going on. You have to be able to cut into Walter's life. Because Walter ultimately hands in Bonaparte, Bon Ami. And that's the film that's being played on a VCR when Lionel has a VCR and a television inside his rehearsal studio. That's what we had. Back in the day, back in the 80s, we could afford all this stuff, right? I don't even know how much I made at the record shop. You can't imagine I made very much. I could pay my rent, and we could go to the club at any night of the week. We could eat basically whatever we wanted, right? Which wasn't much because we're all about 150 pounds, like, right? Right? So times change, things change, people change. I'm glad I do my show. Please share it. I like talking about current events, and I also like talking about my project. I really want to get people interested in this project. I'll be talking about this project until it actually gets made. You'll see it get made. We are creating it out of thin air. We are manifesting it. And that's why we don't need any electronic interference with what we're doing. Thank you very much for watching my show. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Now I just got to find the X. Marks the spot.